The promotion theory. The first day I worked for Continental Can, I'll never forget a seasoned veteran there in the company, and he said, if you really want to get ahead in this organization, right from the start, you've got to begin to develop your people, and you'll never get promoted if you don't develop someone to take your place. Now, what the promotion theory says is it says work with all your people. You don't know who your replacement might or might not be, but I'll guarantee you if you don't have a replacement ready, you'll never get promoted. And I saw this happen. I've seen this happen in my own career. A very well-qualified person couldn't move up because in the judgment of senior management, there's really nobody to go in and take the place of that key individual. Now, it's to your advantage to think about the promotion theory, but it's also to the advantage of your people. Once they see that you're interested in their development, they're going to work harder for you and make you more successful. Another common sense theory is you look at managing like parenting. I noticed as my wife Mary and I have been parents and gone through the joy, excitement, frustration, and sometimes despair of raising 3 children, that there's many correlations with the managing process. The encouragement and the key here is to seek training and counsel. I mean, anybody, almost anybody can have children. Almost anybody can just get through the process the best you can, but there's so much good information available that we need to learn how to parent, and we need to learn how to manage. We've got to read books, listen to audio tapes. I am constantly, as I drive around in my automobile, as I go through the process of my work, I'm listening to tapes by Peter Drucker, George Odeorn, and others. As much study as I've done, I'm continually trying to learn more about the managing process. I see so many managers, and especially in nonprofit and Christian organizations, that don't take the time to learn about planning and managing. It's almost as if they're just going to go through a whole lifetime of making all kinds of planning and organizational mistakes. An example, as I see the matrix organizational structure being improperly used, and especially in hospitals and churches and nonprofit settings. If you're going to do something like that, at least read about and find out about all the pitfalls. Managing like parenting. Let's just don't go through the process. Let's learn something about it. The Stinger principle. We're all very naive if you think you can go through a career of managing organizations in our complex environment, working with people, and without realizing that you're going to have to very properly apply the Stinger. Now, I'm not the kind of person that says we're going to browbeat our people, we're going to be hard-nosed, there's a punishment every time you make a mistake. No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that if people don't respond to coaching, if you use the principles and care and feeding of the boss, if you've agreed on what has to be done and performance isn't there or the attitude's bad, then it's not going to get any better. I see in many sections of society that we just will not confront poor performance. Now, what happens when you have poor performance? You've got quite a large number of people that are working hard for you. And I saw this in one situation that I was in. If the other people that are working hard see that the slackers are getting by with what they're doing and not working hard, it really hurts their morale. Plus the fact you owe it to the person that's not doing the job to work up to their capability. The Stinger principle says you sit down and you talk about what's to be accomplished. You outline a program of what has to be done to be successful on the job. You take your responsibility as a boss to coach and help that person. But if you just can't get the job done, then you've got to apply the Stinger. You've got to say, here's what has to be done, or you're going to have to find employment somewhere else. So let's get over this notion that people are on lifetime employment contracts, that any kind of performance counts. Let's apply the Stinger when it's needed and when it's appropriate. The cycle theory. The cycle theory, I've noticed over a period of time that things tend to run in cycles. They're measurable. You can see them. It's important that an organization recognize where it is on the product life cycle. You know, how many products do we have? Are they reaching a mature stage? What's the cycle in our business economy? You know, what's happening in the world around us? If you see these cycles, then you're going to be able to do a better job of managing your business. Let's pause for just a brief break, and we'll be right back.
Common Sense Management covers 35 principles on how to become a more effective leader and a better manager. It's simple, direct, and easy to learn.
The book, Common Sense Management, is going to help you become a better manager and a better leader.
In order to get your copy of Common Sense Management, write to Managing for Success, Box 957, Jenks, Oklahoma, 74037.
Pay me now or pay me later. That's another common sense approach. What I've noticed is so many times organizations want to forget the planning process, want to forget getting people involved, and especially churches and ministries. They want to go right into action. Let's get the army on the field. Let's go for it. What I've found out is that if you don't take the time to do a good job of planning, go through each step of the planning process, take each of the steps that I've covered in my strategic planning books, that what you're doing is you're rushing out, and all too often you're going to begin to make mistakes. Now, pay me now means take the time to develop the plan right now, because if you don't, later on you're going to have so many mistakes, so many false starts, so much confusion that you're going to spend all your time now trying to get the people behind the plan. You're going to spend your time trying to correct your mistakes. You're going to have to pay later. I encourage you to do a good job of planning first so that you don't have to pay a bigger price later. In the Common Sense Management book, we talk about being afraid to fail. And a good example is any of us could walk a 2x4 plank on the ground. Let's say if somebody gave us a reward for $100. Somebody said, Henry, if you can walk on this 2x4, it's right there on the ground in your backyard. If you can walk from one end to the other, I'll give you $100. Now, if that same plank was 100 feet in the air, not many of us are going to take a chance. I think we've got to recognize that part of succeeding is also failing. I'll acknowledge to you today I've failed at so many things that I've lost count. But I don't let that bother me. I just say, well, hey, there's one more thing that won't work. So don't be afraid to fail. Take some chances. Think through your options. You know, I'm not saying recklessly run across that board. I'm saying think through what you're doing. Liberty Industries in Girard, Ohio, they reached a critical point in their business. And they took a chance on a new packaging division. They were not afraid to fail, and that's one of the most successful divisions of their company today. You've got to take some chances to succeed. Another concept is what I call my defensive end theory. I was a defensive end in football, and a lot of times when you spot trouble, and that's what a defensive end has to do, is you go straight to the ball, and my coaches always told me, get rid of as much of as many blockers as you can and try to get to the ball carrier. Too many times I see people trying to avoid trouble. They just won't meet conflict head on. Defensive end theory says if you spot a problem, you've got to get the problem out in the open, and you've got to struggle with it because it's just not going to go away.